Electrocast.
You're tuned into Auto Intelligence, live from Auto Trader, where data, tools, and your preferences sync to make your car shopping smooth.
They're searching inventory.
Oh, yeah.
They find what you need.
They're gonna find
and
it.
You can make a budget for your wallet to help you succeed. Pricing's precise and true.
So true.
It's smarter car shopping.
Ooh.
Just for you.
Oh, it's just for you.
Ooh.
Find your next ride at autotrader.com. Powered by Auto Intelligence.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. That's why you need Shopify. They'll help you create a convenient, unified command center for whatever your business throws at you, whether you sell online, in-store, or both. You can sell the way you want, attract the customers you need, and keep them coming back. Turn those what-ifs into why-nots with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Hi, and welcome to Deep Leadership. I'm your host, John Rennie. In this episode, Dr. Sylvia Rohde-Liebenau joins us to share her smart power leadership model, which is a fresh way to think about influence, resilience, and impact in a complex world. She explains how leaders can move beyond control and transactional leadership to build authentic, relational, transformational power. We also dive into resilience, energy management, and how even art and music can help you to become a better leader. If you're looking for practical tools to lead with clarity and purpose in chaotic times, this conversation is for you. So, are you ready to dive in? Let's get started.
Welcome to Deep Leadership, the show built on one simple and powerful truth. Leadership is a people business. If you're ready to become a better boss and a stronger leader, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Dr. Sylvia Rohde-Liebenau. Sylvia is a senior executive coach with 30 years of experience who helps C-suite leaders, entrepreneurs, and change makers thrive in today's complex and fast-moving world. She is the founder of the Smart Power Method, a groundbreaking approach for succeeding in complexity with greater impact and ease. Her clients have included the UNHCR, European Central Bank, Alliance Global Investors, Red Cross, and Amazon. She is also the author of the best-selling book, Who's in Charge? Lead with Real Power and Create an Impact in a Chaotic World. And in this book, Sylvia helps leaders to become more resilient, powerful, and combine success with fulfillment. I'm excited to have her on the show to learn from her expertise. So Sylvia, welcome to the show.
Hi, John. So pleased to see you today and to have our conversation.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on the show. We've been working on trying to get the schedule for a long time. So I'm so glad we're finally here and we're recording. So we made it. So let's dive in. First of all, your book is called Who's in Charge? And you introduce this idea of the Smart Power Leadership Model. Can you walk us through what that is and how this applies to leaders or how leaders can use it?
Yeah. Let me start by where it comes from. So my background is in international relations and security studies originally. And then I spent many years in the corporate world. And what I learned there is what we believe is power is actually only a very small part of what power actually is. So there's the traditional idea power is force and control. It's like win-lose, competition. And whether that's in politics or in business, it really falls short. We do not achieve success very well in that way, especially in today's complex and interdependent world. So what I'm showing in Who's in Charge is what is another model of power and also how you work with your energy so that you actually use that power. And that other model of power, which I explain in the book, and then I've kind of conceptualize it further in Smart Power and the Smart Power Method, is like it's existing of 5 elements. The first is systemic powers. So in today's world, you need to think in systems because of complexity, because of interdependence, because things are so interrelated that if you push or if you pull on one side, you're going to have ripple effects on the other side. So if you only look at the little particles, you don't understand the thing. So you really have to look at the system. So that's one thing that I learned and that I put into this model. The second is, so it's an acronym SMART, systemic for S. N is merging power. With merging, I'm saying we believe often that we have to control the things because we know better, because our department knows better, because our party knows better, because if we control, then we are safe. But actually, in this very interdependent world, we don't get very far with that. And merging means I'm going to give part of my control into like pooling it together with other parties. So we share control. So the European Union is a very good example over that. It's a togetherness of countries that work together in order to like we give up a little bit of control, but we have more power together because we work better together, and also we are a bigger partner in the world. Same with the US, actually. I mean, the US is a confederation of federal states, and like California or New Jersey on their own, they wouldn't be a lot. But working together and figuring things out together, sharing information, all of that makes you more powerful. You have to give a little bit away, but you gain a lot. So that's merging. Then you have A, that is like at the center of SMART power. It stands for authentic personal power. And it really sits at the center of being powerful as a leader. Because if you are not like in your authentic, and I always add embodied power, like also showing up with presence, then your ideas, even if they're the smartest in the world, and your good, nice way of wanting to collaborate with others doesn't really succeed. You have to show up in a certain way that is authentic, but that is also tangible for others, so others can actually see and feel where you are and trust you more. So that's a very important part, this authentic personal power, that we need to work on. It doesn't come like automatically for most of us. Then the R stands for relational power. That's a little bit the basis for going into merging power. And it's about how do you create trust? How do you establish relationships? Relationships are actually important. Like to invest in relationships in order to be powerful. It's not necessarily like giving up control. It's just being in relationship. And then the final part, the T, is transformational power. And I talk about that because we can be a leader, whether in politics or in business, and we are only in the transactional or on the doing part. Like we get the KPIs, and that's very good, and so we get a promotion, etc. But are we only managing, or are we actually leading? And when we want to lead, there always has to be a transformational element. That is, I have to have a purpose or a vision towards which I go with my team, with my company, with my organization. And so this transformational part of leadership that makes the leadership really powerful, and not only like I'm a good soldier and I lead within a structure, that is where you need purpose. Like without the purpose, you don't really have a clear direction and you can't be transformational. So it's smart, systemic, merging, authentic, personal, relational, and transformational power.
Well, I love these elements. I think there's, if I think, over my past, career, I've seen where I've been, better at some of these, and and I've seen the impact that certain elements of these have been in my career. What's interesting is, like when I was studying leadership, kind of coming up through corporate, one of the main lessons that came through, or one of the main leadership models that came through, was like servant leadership. So I always thought that I was a servant leader, which sort of focused a little bit maybe on the merging and the relations side of your model. And I wasn't really that familiar with transformational leadership. But when I sort of started learning a little bit about transformational leadership, I like that's really more the way that I see myself as a leader. And I think you've touched on something that's really important, is that there is a purpose when you're talking about transformational leadership, there's always like a central purpose that is being communicated. And I think that's one thing I've always tried to do in the roles that I've had is to sort of have, because I'll tell you, I came out of the military, and the military, the mission was always clear. And when I came into corporate, what I discovered, the mission was never clear. Like I never knew what the priority was. Like, are we going to work on reducing inventory today? Or are we working on scrap reduction? Or are we doing customer, success? Or what are the things that are important today and always changed? So whenever I took charge of businesses, I always said, I always tried to make sure that the purpose was very clear, because I think that's our jobs as leaders to make the purpose very clear, and then helping people sort of transform themselves as we transform the company together. And so I think that's a really powerful element of this. And I think you need all of them, all of these 5 elements to really to capitalize on that transformational element of it. So that's really powerful. The one that kind of stood out to me a little bit is the merging. So in other words, do you find that some leaders have a hard time letting go of their power to be able to merge like this?
Very much, very much. Not because they don't want to, because they're mean people and don't want to let go of control. I think there are 2 factors. One is that the world of organization is actually traditionally structured in a way that we have these silos. I think it was originally coming from a good idea, is that you have like controls over each other. So you have risk management, or maybe before credit risks, and you have the legal department, and then you have sales, and you have marketing, and they kind of look at each other whether they are doing a good job, and therefore kind of controlling or and if not competing, then kind of resisting each other. But that means that we are so educated. We grow up in organizations thinking that we have to defend our department.
Yeah.
And what I learned very early on in corporate, one of my first experiences was that I had, because I was given responsibility for an area that I did not know anything about, the only thing that I could do it was to reach out to the colleagues who were the technical experts, because ours was development collaboration. So I didn't need to be the expert, but I needed the expertise to make it work. So I reached out to them and had them help me, and it really went well. And one of the first things that my boss said, Sylvia, I see that you're working a lot with those fellows over there. Are you not sure that they're going to take over? And I said, dear boss, they're not going to take over because we have the budget. But we need them. Please trust me that this is going to be okay. And he trusted me. And actually that helped us so much to really grow and to be on the same level as the World Bank, who had much more people to go into the projects. And without my experts, I would have been lost. But traditionally, my boss was not a bad person. He was just reacting like we have to keep control. So that's one thing. The other could be that people think, well, I know better. And since I know very well, I can't let this go. I have to control it.
And it's interesting. My last corporate job was I saw the silo effect of people protecting their kingdoms. And it was very frustrating to me, because I always thought to myself, well, if we work together, we would be much more successful. I would always tell my teams that the enemy was outside the 4 walls, not inside the 4 walls, And so I was always trying to point to the idea that we're in this together, right? And so you might be a different department, but you're still, you should be, we should be working together versus fighting each other for our little piece of the budget or the turf, if you will.
Yeah. And you see also school systems work like this, that we are being rewarded for being the best student, for handing on this great report, and not for collaborating with others. It's getting a bit better. One of my daughters just finished studying in Denmark, and was much more collaborative. As students, we don't publish even your notes, and we give you projects to work together. I think that's very good to create better workers and leaders in business afterwards. But many of us went to schools and universities where it was like, you have to show that you're the best. So then we end up being at work, and we only focus on, I got a great idea, rather than, hey, can I learn from you? What are you thinking?
Yeah, and I think for me, at least, well, in the United States, it's very competitive, and I'm very competitive, so it's hard sort of let that go and work collaboratively. Yeah. And so I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
I'm working on my doctorate right now in the area of resilient leadership. And so you talk about resilience, and I wanted to cover that with you. You talk about resilience and energy management and how that is really critical in leadership. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. It's very critical because if we don't have this resilience, again, we can be the smartest person on the planet, um, or maybe have short-term like energy, but we will not sustain ourselves, our organizations over the long term. So we have to manage our own resilience as leaders, but also think of the resilience of our teams. And no organization can be resilient without its people being resilient. So you can think organizational resilient, but in the end, to do it, you need the people to be resilient because they carry the organization. And what I found is what is really critical for resilience is like on the individual and leadership level. It starts with self-awareness and self-management, because through that, I will manage my physical resilience, my emotional resilience, my mental, for instance, self-awareness. I will realize that these pings on my computer, my phone, they are actually draining me. So I will manage that. I will be aware, and then I will manage that. So it's self-awareness and self-management. And then it's actually adaptability. So being able to adapt to circumstances, to have a growth mindset, to not get stuck on something and to get angry that this is like this and therefore I have to complain. Say, okay, this is changing. What can I do? And so these two things, self-awareness and self-management, and then adaptability, are like the main pillars of resilience.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
I love that, the idea that, we as leaders, I love that you said that, we can't be resilient as an organization. We can be a great resilient leader, but we have to develop resilient people. And I think that's part of it, is building a resilient culture in our organizations, that we can not freak out when things change, that we're able to, adapt, and we're able to improvise. I know, I'm studying like the startup companies during the COVID crisis and how they, pivoted, and many of them pivoted to try to, okay, well, now we're either shut down or we can't get supplies, or we're not having physical meetings anymore. So how did startup companies pivot during the COVID pandemic? And quite frankly, I saw a lot of resiliency. I saw a lot of, small companies being very flexible in terms of readjusting their business model to be able to take advantage of, the shifting winds. And so I think that the resiliency is a really important thing. And I think the other side of it too is our people are looking to us as the leader to say, are they panicking when all these changes happen?
Yeah.
Or are they even keel and they're saying, okay,
Yeah.
We've got to adapt. We've got to change with this time. And I think it's important that we have that ability to show our people that we are resilient. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I like the idea of energy management too, because I think you're right. We have things that suck our energy and affect our emotions. And I think, I'll sometimes not like open an email that I know is potentially bad, because it's a certain part of the day where I want to get something done. It's like, I'm going to save that email because I know I'm going to probably have a negative reaction to that. So I'll save that one till when I'm ready.
Totally.
So I'm almost preserving my energy, right, through that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. So you have an interesting background in that not only are you, a leadership guru and you do all this coaching, you're also an artist, dancer, singer, and that's kind of unique. But how are these, how are they related? The artistic disciplines and the leadership disciplines. Can you explain a little bit of how you've sort of been able to learn some ideas from some art and being able to bring it to leadership?
Yeah, it's of course I didn't do arts and dance and music in order to do leadership. I simply learned a lot there, and it's really, really enriching. It has enriched my leadership work and very much my coaching work. And it is unique in the sense that it doesn't take coaching tools. It really like uses the tools from these arts. And so maybe starting with visual art, which I do not use in coaching or very rarely, but it has taught me a lot from the point of view of trusting the process. When you do an abstract painting, you throw some color on the canvas, and then you see what happens, and you might even get really annoyed with what you did, and like erase everything and start from fresh. And that's an experience that I've had in my corporate work again and again. So where do we start here? We don't really know. So let's try something out. It's like doing micro projects to find out, does this work, or talking to people to set out a trial balloon, and trusting this process of doing things, learning, adapting, and then like ending up with something that is really great, rather than thinking I have to sit here or discuss in a meeting room and then we've got it all figured out. So that's this trusting the process, and also being willing to say, this doesn't work. It's not a good project. We have to erase it, but you learn something. Yeah. So you did something, and it may have been a failure. So you erase it. So you stuck the project, but you've learned something, and on the back of that, you build something that is new and that will be fantastic. Not because it's new and the other was crap. Maybe the other was crap, but you learn something in the process. So that's very much the creativity also that is happening in art. And then in dance, there is a very important element of truthfulness. And it's the same actually in acting. As a dancer or an actor, you can't be in the smudge. You have to be very clear, like in your movements, the way that you use your voice. It can't be somewhere in between, because no one's going to listen to you, or no one is going to watch you if you're kind of somewhat there and actually not. So this clarity has led me into also the embodiment work that I do today. Because if we show up with like already not being fully in our body, but also with unclear speech, unclear gestures, and like wishy-washiness, then our leadership, like we might have the smartest ideas, great partners, etc., but we are not going to be great leaders. And then also in dance, there's the aspect of connection. I mean, I've been an Argentinian tango dancer for a long time, and where I learned to lead and to follow, and that actually leading is following and following is leading. So as a leader, you do not lead all the time pushing somewhere, but you also need to listen. What is actually possible for your followers? And then you continue to lead, but you have to be always also in the listening mode. And as a follower, you cannot only be like a plant, please push me somewhere and I will follow, but you have to be active. So the leader has to be like, to know like, John, what are you able to do? So I can say, okay, you can tell me what you're able to do, and then we go there together. If the follower is passive, it's really hard for the leader to lead. It's probably also a message for leaders to give to their followers. Hey guys, don't be shy. Tell me. Tell me what you're good at. Tell me what you would like to do, etc. Because then the leading and following is much more lively and vibrant. So these things that I really have learned practically in the arts, and that I've like transposed into my corporate leadership and now to my coaching work.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know the idea, I really like what you talked about with art and the idea of trusting the process, because, sometimes you might begin with the end in mind. Like you begin with like, I think this is going to be a painting of a river, and like an outdoor scene. And something might evolve from that that's kind of exciting that you didn't necessarily intend. And then you sort of kind of keep building on that. And then the end result may be something better than you ever expected, right? Or different. Yeah. And I think, at least as a startup leader, I often told my employees when we started the company, I said, I guarantee you 10 years from now, it won't be the company we think it we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Because because it's an iterative process, right? We learn what the customers like and we do more of that. We learn what they don't like and we do less of that. And certain products have not worked out, right? And so those are no longer in the portfolio. So the painting of my company now 9 years in is not the painting I set out to paint, right? But it is actually very beautiful, and it's very unique. So I love that that idea from art, and that makes a lot of sense. And when you were talking about dance, all I could think about was, I'm not a great dancer, and I don't pretend to be. But one of the things is my time in the military, where we worked together as a team, to be able to operate the submarine, and we did it. There was a lot of muscle memory because we practiced over and over again, and we were used to each other, and so we didn't need to communicate verbally even to be able to know what the other officer on the ship was thinking. I would literally look at my CO, he'd give me a smile, I knew what the next move was. So because of that, the familiarity, the practice, so you get a sense of others are going to do because you know them. You built up a relation. I imagine as a dancer, you build a relationship with your partner to where you know what they're going to do. And I think when I've been on teams that have been like that, where you know how other people are going to, that's a real special thing when that happens. And it doesn't happen very often. When you're on a team like that, though, it is very special, and it's a fun place to be. So I imagine that similarity of dancing. That's all I could think of was a similar thing with teams.
I guess, I'm curious, in the military, especially in a situation like a submarine, there is also an aspect of intimacy. You guys living together for a long time, you know each other on a personal level. You probably also share like, I'm having a difficulty with that, or this is where I come from, this is how I grew up and all that, which also like glues you together and creates that trust where you really can lean on each other.
Absolutely. And it's one of the things that bothered me when I came in the corporate world. It was we're too distant from each other. So we get together in a meeting, but everybody's in their cubicles or in their offices and nobody really gets together. And I would always say, when are we going to go out for beers? After dinner, after work today? And they're like, no, we're going to go home. Like I feel like there wasn't a deep enough connection when I was, in my corporate days. And I would say a startup is a little more intimate, a little more like a submarine because we're small. And the world is against us. A submarine, everything is against you. The water just wants to get in the submarine, so your job is to keep it out. And so the enemy is outside the hull. And I think as a startup leader, I feel that way. Like the enemy is outside, and we can protect. We work together to protect ourselves from the enemy. But in my corporate days, I never felt that way. So it was hard to get that intimacy, like you talked about, with the dancing and being able to get that. The feeling from your followers, But I do like the idea that you have to have active followers, and you have to encourage active followers. And by the way, listeners, that's how you get engaged workforces, when you want them to be active followers and not just a plant being moved, which I love that analogy of just a plant being moved around the room. We don't want plants. We want active, followers, right?
And it's very often really for the leaders to give that signal, because oftentimes team members they don't know, they're shy, they don't want to intrude, they don't want to propose something and then think that the boss is annoyed because you take up too much space, etc. So if you want your team to be more active and to take responsibility and to lean in, it's good to tell them that you want that.
Yeah. That's so true. So true. Well, what's a piece of advice that you could give us that comes from your book that would help us navigate complexity? Because that seems to be a bigger issue. At least I've been in the workforce for a long time. It seems like things are getting more and more complex. And, we just got over a pandemic, and then suddenly we have AI taking over. And so we're always constantly facing some sort of big change. How do we deal with that? What are some ideas for that?
Yeah. We are now in the polycrisis situation and in information overload, and also in the situation where the old systems and practices are still there and they actually don't work. So it's for leaders, it's very difficult. The advice that I would give, several pieces of advice. One is really to stay anchored in your purpose, because that gives you like a really solid foundation. So to remind yourself or ask yourself from time to time again, like, what is it that I really want to achieve here and why? Because then all this stuff flying around, it keeps flying around, but you are anchored in something. So it becomes much easier to stay on course. And that has helped me in so many situations when I was going like a little bit off the handle. Oh, this difficult conversation or this difficult situation. What's my purpose? And it's a central element of my leadership coaching purpose. The second is to really give yourself a personal practice to find some calm and balance in yourself. It's not a luxury. It's actually part of being a leader. It's like a friend of mine who is a coach and who comes from the world of sports. He says, rest days are also training days. So an athlete, it's important to rest. So for leaders in the corporate world or in politics, it's also important to rest. It's part of the work. It's not, oh my God, now I'm taking time off or this is bad, but I'm actually doing my duty here. I'm resting, which doesn't mean that I sit with a box of popcorn and watch Netflix the whole day, but I really give myself, my body, my spirit some time to chill out. And like, find yourself a practice. It can be taking walks in the woods or by the sea. It can be listening to some really good music. It can be just closing your eyes and dreaming or meditating. It can be different things, but it's really important to give yourself that. And sports can be also good, but if it becomes a stress factor, so I have like this, I have to do this hour and be completely knocked out afterwards. That's also a risk that we simply continue in the same way as we work. It's just stressing us out. So sport can be great if we keep in touch with our body. Does it feel good? Does it really feel good?
Yeah.
And then we can have this competitive match also. But if sports is you go to a place, then do it like for rebalancing, to do it in a way that really feels good.
Yeah.
That's something good. And then it's also important, like as I spoke about systemic power, like from time to time also just simply to step back. Like you're in the midst of chaos, well, step back. Take a moment to say, okay, what do I see in front of me? Okay, now I can have a more intelligent go at it than simply like digging my nose deeper into the stuff. Like, no, go back and then finally it's really relationships and collaboration that sometimes can get cut off because we are so much in the doing, and then we forget that actually other people who will help us, or maybe who share our challenges, and to really make that part of our leadership practice to be in relationship and to foster collaboration, because it makes things so much easier.
Wow. That is 4 powerful things, leaders. Listen to those 4 things, and you can really make yourself a more effective leader, not just for the short term, but for the long term, right? If this is a marathon, not a sprint. And so if you want to be around for the next 20, 30 years as a leader and a successful leader, those 4 pieces of advice are very, very powerful. This has been fantastic. Sylvia, how can our listeners find out more about you and this new book called Who's in Charge?
So Who's in Charge is available on all our Amazon sites. Also in some bookstores, but Amazon is the most easy way to find it. And you can also find it on my website, but again, Amazon is easier. My website is smartpowermethod.com. And there you find ways how to work with me. And you can also find, like, reread the 5 components of Smart Power and more about my work. And I'd be thrilled to hear from you.
Well, fantastic. We're going to put links in the show notes for all of Sylvia's resources. And again, listeners, I say this all the time, reach out to Sylvia. She is the expert. The whole reason we have this podcast is for you to connect with the experts that are out there that can help you become a better leader, be more effective. Sylvia's hit us with a lot of wisdom today. And I highly recommend you go out and get the book, Who's in Charge. The link is right down in the show notes. Sylvia's website's also there. Reach out to her. You have questions. You want to know more about the Smart, Power Method. If you want to know more about what she talked about with I love the idea of bringing in art into leadership, or even the idea of anchoring in purpose, which is such an important item, reach out to Sylvia. She's the expert, and she's the one I encourage you to reach out to. So follow the links in the show notes for all of her resources. Sylvia, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing all the things that you've learned and how you're applying them and how you're sharing them in your books.
Thanks, John. Such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you again. Well, that is it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.
Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. For more information and updates, please visit our website at johnsrennie.com.
You deserve better healthcare, and so do we all. Medicine in America is a podcast that shares real stories of patients and doctors reshaping the future, because the revolution in care isn't coming, it's already here. Real stories, real change, a better future for healthcare.
Electricast.
Ever thought about starting your own podcast?
Do you have a business or a message you want to share with the world?
Well, now it's easier than ever with Electricast. Hi, I'm Mark Netter.
And I'm Peter Rafelson. We're the founders of Electricast Media.
Whether you want to start a new podcast or already have one, join Electricast to grow your audience, monetize your content, and build your community.
With our simple sign-up, you get free promotion, world-class analytics, premium ads, and personal support.
Go to electricast.com and join our community today.
Electricast. Transform your influence.
Electricast.